This has been a week that's been dominated by the economy. As a businessman, when you hear warnings from the Bank of England talking about the possibility of a recession if Britain votes to leave the EU, and you hear the IMF saying that an exit would range from being pretty bad to very, very bad, does that not give you pause for thought in your commitment to leaving the EU?
Well, I think you've got to take these people reasonably seriously, but I think you've also got to look at their track record, which is not very good. We were all told 10 or 15 years ago that if we didn't join the euro, that the economy would tank and the city would run into enormous difficulties. It didn't happen. When we were in the exchange rate mechanism, we were told, not least by John Major, that if we left, we'd have high levels of inflation and again the economy going down. Exactly the reverse occurred. And if none of these people foresaw the crash in 2008. I mean, are we really to take it all that seriously? I think it's sort of groupthink about all this. Nobody wants to be out of sync with other people, but I'm not sure these risks aren't grossly exaggerated.
Well, Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England, says Leave campaigners are in denial about the economic impact. And it's not just the Bank of England, isn't it? It's the IMF, the OECD, it's President Obama, it's institutions lining up. Are you saying they are all wrong?
Well, all I am saying is that I think they were all wrong over the euro, and they were all wrong over the exchange rate mechanism. They were all wrong over the crash in 2008. So are we really to believe they're going to be right this time?
What about Boris Johnson then? Boris Johnson, in the newspapers today, has compared European efforts to build a super state, as he would define it, to Hitler's attempts to dominate the continent. What do you make of those remarks?
Well, Boris Johnson is Boris Johnson. I mean, I think it is a bit over the top, to be honest with you. I mean, there's obviously some element of underlying truth about all this, but I think that this is a rather, well, fairly considerably exaggerated way of putting the case.
And of course, he's one of the most prominent spokespeople for Vote Leave, a group that you've left. Was it because of this kind of thing that you left?
No, it wasn't. It was because Vote Leave is a cross-party organisation, but it hadn't got a particularly distinctive Labour voice. I mean, it does have Gisela Stewart there, and Frank Field, and Graham Stringer, so it's got some important Labour figures on its board. But I thought that what was needed was a distinctive Labour campaign for Brexit, and that's what I'm now very much involved in.
But the Electoral Commission chose Vote Leave as the main party, the main group to represent that view. Doesn't it confuse matters if you peel off?
I don't think it does particularly. I mean, I think on the whole, Labour people like dealing with Labour organisations, and we've certainly had a very, very strong response to the re-establishment of Labour Leave over the last couple of weeks. So I think I'm pleased with the decision that's been taken.
And yet there have been suggestions that there have been tensions behind the scenes within Vote Leave, and then we had this email that appeared to threaten both the government and ITV about plans to put Cameron up against Nigel Farage in debate ahead of the EU referendum. Do you think that Vote Leave risks losing some credibility amongst voters?
Well, there's some very lively people at Vote Leave who obviously have their point of view. And I think any organisation like this, which is cross-party, is bound to have some tensions. But I think Labour Leave has done a very good job with raising funding for the campaign it's fighting. It's got some very talented people there. It's got a very talented board. I think it's doing a pretty good job on the whole. But
what are your reservations? How do they treat Labour people?
Well, I think that there have been some problems about treating Labour people in a different way from Conservative people, and I understand this. But this is really why I think it's been helpful to split off the Labour, specifically Labour campaign, the way that has been done. And I'm pleased with the way things are going. We're getting a very good response. I think there is a very substantial block of left-leaning, Labour-leaning votes, which is Brexit-orientated, which needs nurturing, and that's what I'm doing.
Are you disappointed that Jeremy Corbyn is not in your camp? Many people had thought that he might be Eurosceptic. Were you disappointed that he plumped for the In campaign?
Well, I was a bit disappointed, yes, because Jeremy Corbyn has got a long track record of being a fairly Eurosceptic, but I understand where he is. I mean, he's part of a party which is very Europhile in the House of Commons. I'm sure he doesn't feel he can take on too many different battles at once, and I think that he's therefore gone along with the sentiments of his colleagues. Yes, it is a bit disappointing, but it's understandable.
As one of Labour's biggest donors, how satisfied are you about how Jeremy Corbyn is leading the party at the moment? Given the local and Scottish elections last week, Labour coming third behind the Tories in Scotland, for example, do you feel he's doing well enough?
Well, I don't think the results last week were nearly as bad as a lot of pundits said they would be for the Labour Party. I think this has left...
Do you think they were good?
No, I don't think they were particularly good, but they weren't nearly as disastrous as a lot of people said they might be. Labour lost 50 or 60 seats. A lot of people were saying they were going to lose more than 200. So I think you've got to get the results in perspective. But I think that Jeremy Corbyn has been a wake-up call for the Labour Party. I think the party needs to have a lot of rethinking on the economy and other issues. And I very much hope this will happen. I'd like to take part in that process over the next few years.
What about Sadiq Khan, the new Mayor of London's advice to Jeremy Corbyn? He talked about needing to do more to address the concerns of ordinary people, have a broader church. Do you think he's on the right lines?
Yes, I think any party that's going to seize power has simply got to have a large enough coalition to achieve that. And the Labour Party has always been a somewhat uneasy coalition between a sort of metropolitan elite and industrial working classes. And I think it's really very important to have both of those pillars behind the party. And
what about the way that the party has dealt with the anti-Semitism row? Did they do enough, and did they do enough soon enough, and have they done enough now?
No, I don't think they did do enough soon enough. I think they're now getting to grips with the problem, but we simply cannot have anti-Semitism in the Labour Party. That's it.
So has that, as well as Jeremy Corbyn's Europe stance, as well as local and Scottish election results, at any point given you any pause for thought about the money that you choose to donate to the Labour Party?
Well, I've been involved with the Labour Party for 50 years or something, and it's had its ups and downs, and I haven't always agreed with the policies that it's pursued, but I'm a kind of tribal Labour Party supporter, and I'll stick around and do my level best to try and get the party to promote the sort of policies I think are workable.
So you will continue to
Yes.
back the Labour Party
Yes.
under Jeremy Corbyn?
Yes.